Okay, it's time to start off today's show with the segment that we start off every Tuesday show with. It is time for our 10 main takeaways of the week. So without further ado, here we go. Boys, hit the music. Week 8, let's do it. Takeaway number 1 from week 8 of the NFL season. The Baltimore Ravens can't win a big game, and I can't trust them to win a big game until proven otherwise. And a lot of it has to do with their quarterback. The fact that they totally outplayed the Pittsburgh Steelers today and still lost is just unbelievable. If you watch the game, Baltimore was clearly the better team, and we're going to get into the numbers a little bit later in the podcast. But if you look at the total yards between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, not only did the Baltimore Ravens run for 276 rushing yards, but they outgained the Steelers 457 to 221, had the ball for 35 and a half minutes, had 25 first downs, went 8 of 15 on third downs compared to the Steelers going 3 of 9, and they still couldn't win the game. And why couldn't they win the game? Because of two things: turnovers and their quarterback. You know, Lamar Jackson has never really specifically struggled turning over the football, but that's what happens when you put him up against an elite defense like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who makes clutch and timely plays time and time again. And Mike Tomlin does deserve a lot of credit for the job he's done this season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I do think they have to get better. We're going to get into this whole game a little bit later in the show, but just a hell of a game between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Got to give the Steelers credit for just week after week after week, no matter who the opponent is, always finding a way to win. Takeaway number 2. Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback for the New York Giants. And if you listen to this show, you know that I've been a Daniel Jones supporter. I actually, for some reason, I picked the New York Giants to finish 8-8 this season. And to be honest, for a big portion of the Monday night game between the Buccaneers and the Giants last night, the Giants were executing the exact game plan that caused me to pick them to go 8-8. I thought their offensive line was going to be improved, and last night was one of the better games their offensive line has played the whole season. Now, I don't have any faith that they're going to continue that, but I guess that's a good sign going forward. And I do think the Giants' defense is legitimately good. Between Blake Martinez, Kyler Fackrell, James Bradbury, Leonard Williams, Dave Gettleman does deserve a little bit of credit for bringing those guys in and really improving the defense. However, if you're a New York Giant fan, I don't think I would want Dave Gettleman back, just because drafting Saquon Barkley at number 2 and drafting Daniel Jones at number 6 don't look like the right moves right now. And I'm not saying that because Saquon Barkley is a bad player. I'm not even saying that because Saquon Barkley is hurt. It's just taking a running back at number 2 overall when the Giants were as in bad a shape as they were in. That was a mistake. And there were a lot of people saying that at the time. And I think right now it's proven to be true, because as good as Saquon Barkley is, how many games have the New York Giants won since they drafted him? Hint, it's not a lot. And Daniel Jones, he needs to stop turning the ball over. We say it each and every week. I've never seen a quarterback more addicted to just weird turnovers than Daniel Jones. He needs to be more careful with the ball, and if he doesn't get more careful, I could see a world where he's not the New York Giants starting quarterback next year, because Joe Judge could coach. I think he has his team ready to play every week, and the Giants, at least with that defense, deserve a shot to win, which right now their current quarterback isn't giving them. Takeaway number 3. The Miami Dolphins are the best team in the AFC East. And I totally understand that if you watched the game yesterday, Tua Tagovailoa wasn't great. Miami improved to 4-3, which is impressive, and the Rams did not play well following a game that they actually did play very well against the Bears. But Miami, led by their coach who gets their team ready to play in each and every game. Brian Flores is one of the 10 best coaches in the NFL, and as the weeks go by, he is just continuing to rise and rise on that list. Miami's defense made plays in this game, man. The Rams' offense is good. I understand Jared Goff has really struggled over the last couple weeks, but I do think the Rams do have the ability to score. And the fact that the Dolphins' defense was able to score touchdown after touchdown was super impressive against Sean McVay and this offense. I don't know what Tua is going to look like going forward. He did have a nice touchdown pass, but he didn't look great. He only had 90 yards, did throw for a touchdown. One thing I'll say about Miami, though, is this. I do like their group of young skill position players that they've surrounded Tua with. I think that's going to be a blessing in disguise for the Dolphins going forward, because I think Tua, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to develop chemistry with guys like Devontae Parker, guys like Preston Williams, guys like Mike Gesicki. I also really like Myles Gaskin as a running back. I think he could legitimately play. And we're going to get to the Buffalo Bills in a bit, but they really didn't impress me at all against the New England Patriots on Sunday. I think when you look at Miami, they're the best team in the AFC East because I think their quarterback's going to get better, their defense is good, and most importantly, their head coach is elite. Takeaway number 4. The San Francisco 49ers are now officially in big trouble. And I know, I went on this show last week and praised Kyle Shanahan. I said it all about him. I said, no matter what guys this coach has, he always finds a way to win. He always finds a way to execute his offense, and he is a genius. And I still think he is a genius. And I respect him as a head coach. I think he's one of the 3 or 4 best coaches in the NFL. But, dog, I'm sorry. No Jimmy Garoppolo for the next 6 weeks. No George Kittle for the next 8 weeks. Playing in the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers are in big, big trouble because they're just too banged up. I know Nick Mullins came in against the Seattle Seahawks and lit them up, but at the same time, when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, you saw Nick Mullins play against the Philadelphia Eagles. It really wasn't impressive, and he was really the main reason why they lost that game. We saw C.J. Beathard play. He's not the answer. And Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he's not the best quarterback in the world, there is a significant difference between him and Nick Mullins. And now that George Kittle's out of the equation, the fact that San Francisco also plays in the NFC West, I think they could just be a little too banged up right now, and I would be shocked if they made the playoffs. Now, if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch could pull this off, maybe they could make a trade at the deadline if Garoppolo's out, for even more time than expected, but it's hard to trade for a quarterback at the trade deadline. I totally understand that. But I do think that when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, they're just in a super tough spot. Bosa's hurt. Solomon Thomas is hurt. Mostert is hurt. This is now the second time this season Garoppolo's gotten hurt. The second time this season Kittle has gotten hurt. They're both going to be out for an extended amount of time. Tough loss for San Fran. They are 4-4, but playing in the NFC West, super tough, especially when you look at their schedule going forward. Takeaway number 5. Dalvin Cook is an absolute monster. What he did to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday was absolutely insane. And to be honest, I think he exposed the Packers defense. I'll give the Vikings credit to go on the road to Lambeau Field at 1-5 and beat a Green Bay Packer team that going into this game was playing pretty good football. I totally understand that. They deserve a lot of credit for that. But at the same time, when you look at Dalvin Cook and the way he was able to run all over the Green Bay Packers, that's a problem if you're a Packer fan. We saw this defense not show up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They weren't able to stop the run at all in that game. And then you literally look at the Houston Texan game, nothing impressive there by the Packers defense, and they cannot stop the run to save their life. Now, people are going to say, oh, the Packers at least were able to show somewhat of a pulse, and they were almost able to come back in this game against Minnesota. But when you look at the way this Green Bay Packer team is playing right now, I like Matt LaFleur. I obviously like Aaron Rodgers, and I obviously love Devontae Adams. But I'm worried about this Packer team, man, because you guys know the whole thing. Equanimeous St. Brown doesn't scare me, And besides Devontae Adams, I like Bob Tunyon, but he's a nice story. I don't know if he's a real threat. Jace Sternberger, Who is Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to? And this was my worry for the Packers before the season started. Aaron Rodgers, throughout the first half of the season, for the most part, has really been able to, sneak it by them just because he's so good. But if I'm a Packer fan, I'm really hoping, my lack of receivers doesn't come back to kill me, especially with the way this defense is playing. Credit to Minnesota for going on the road and getting the victory, but I'm going to need to see a little more from them going forward in order to take them real seriously. But I'm starting to get a little worried about Green Bay. Takeaway number 6. The Chicago Bears need to trade for a quarterback ASAP, and it could be Ryan Pace's only way to save his job. Because right now, when you look at the way that both Chicago Bears quarterbacks have been playing, it's not ideal. And I do think the Chicago Bears defense is back to playing at the same level that they were playing at a couple years ago when they were a consensus top 2 to 3 unit in football. If you're a player in the Bears locker room, you need it to be shown to you that management and ownership cares about having a winner. And the crazy thing is, this Chicago Bears team right now is 5-3 and finds themselves right in the mix of the NFC playoff race, but they need competent quarterback play or else they're not going anywhere. Later in the show, we're going to get into some possible guys and possible candidates that I think they could get at today's trade deadline, but I'm telling you, if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I would want to get a quarterback because Nick Foles nor Mitch Trubisky is getting the job done. I think the defense played well enough on Sunday for them to beat the New Orleans Saints. However, they didn't get good enough quarterback play. And I totally understand their offensive line is in total legitimate shambles right now. It's not very good. But at the same time, you need someone at quarterback that could give you a legitimate chance to win. And I don't think Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles right now, when you look at this Chicago Bears team, gives them a legitimate chance to win. And that is saying something because their defense is legitimately good, but still their offense can't do anything with that. So could you imagine if the Chicago Bears had an average defense? To be honest, I think that's what happened to them last year. And we're seeing for the second year in a row, really, just how bad this offense could be if things go wrong. If I'm a Bears fan, I would want to be optimistic when you consider how good the defense has been playing. But once again, as good as the defense has been, that is just how bad the offense has been for the Chicago Bear team. Takeaway number 7. The Cincinnati Bengals are a fun football team. They could be the most fun team to watch in the NFL. But with that being said, and as good as Joe Burrow looked, that is still a hideous loss for the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans need to get better on the defensive side of the ball, or else they're going to be in big, big trouble. Because the Tennessee Titans, over their last 2 games, on third down, their defense has been out here giving up 60% success rate on third down. If you want any chance at all ever to win in the National Football League, the Tennessee Titans are going to need to do better on third down. I still think Derrick Henry is an absolute monster and think he is probably the best running back in the league. Him or Dalvin Cook right now, it's close. I think Ryan Tannehill is fine at quarterback. I think he's good enough, and Mike Vrabel is good enough as a coach for you to win games with that group. But the Tennessee Titans on defense need to be better. They have talent with Byard and Rashad Evans, who was great last year. Jeffrey Simmons is a good young up-and-coming pass rusher, but they need to be better on that side of the ball, or else they are not going anywhere. And I think Joe Burrow really showed you that on Sunday. He torched that defense, and the Cincinnati Bengals were missing 3 offensive linemen. And keep in mind, this is a Bengal offensive line that really was never any good to begin with. But with that being said, I'm super impressed with Joe Burrow, super impressed with the chemistry that he's been able to develop with Tyler Boyd on that side of the ball. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals, for teams like Baltimore, teams like Pittsburgh that are at the top of the race right now, they're never going to be an easy out, and they're going to be a team that I think are going to be very, very annoying to play against for others. Joe Burrow is a star. I think the Cincinnati Bengals, with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, are in good hands going forward. Takeaway number 8. The Raiders and Derek Carr had a really impressive win on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns, and I'm very curious to see how exactly this AFC playoff picture is going to shape out. Because when you look at the standings right now, as crazy as this sounds, the Raiders still have one more game with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if they can win that game, They're going to be 2-0 against the Kansas City Chiefs this season. With that win on Sunday against the Browns, that put the Raiders with a record 4-3. And when you look at their upcoming schedule, it's not that tough besides the Kansas City game. They have a huge game next week at the Los Angeles Chargers. And when I say that's a huge game, I say it because as good as the Chargers are and as impressive as Justin Herbert looks, we're actually going to get to them before this show ends today. If the Raiders want to make the playoffs, given the fact that the Indianapolis Colts are playing pretty good football right now, and also given the fact that the Cleveland Browns, even though you just beat them, have a pretty easy schedule going forward, it's games like this against the Chargers that you're going to have to win on the road if you want to be a legitimate playoff team. And I think when you look at these Raiders right now, if they could win that game, their schedule isn't too bad going forward. Home against Denver, home against Kansas City, at Atlanta, at the Jets, home against the Colts. That is week 14. That is going to be a crucial game to see who sneaks into the AFC playoffs in the wild card. The Raiders also host the Chargers. They host the Dolphins, and they go to Denver. That is not a hard schedule, and if the Raiders are serious about making the playoffs, then they'll make it with that schedule. But do I trust them to do so? I don't know. They need to be more consistent. Going on the road against Cleveland and getting the job done is a solid start. But at the same time, I do think that when you look at Cleveland, their offense is a huge problem. And I'm not saying losing Odell Beckham is the reason why, but it certainly doesn't help. Baker Mayfield only putting up 6 points, even in those weather conditions, against this Raider defense is a travesty. And the more and more I watch Baker Mayfield, I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, but I just can't see him being the answer in Cleveland for the future. I think also when you look at this Cleveland Brown team, Jarvis Landry is fine, but he has too many drops to be a legitimate number one receiver. And now that Odell Beckham is out, you know what that means? Teams are just going to focus more on stopping the run and forcing Baker Mayfield to beat you. And if I'm a Cleveland Brown fan, that is not the formula I want going forward. That's not going to win me many games. So I think the Cleveland Browns could be in trouble. But luckily for them, the one saving grace for them, the schedule. Cleveland is lucky to have a pretty favorable one. Takeaway number 9. Even though Cam Newton was the main reason why the New England Patriots lost and the Bills won, I still don't trust the Buffalo Bills going forward. I mean, was anyone really impressed by them in that game on Sunday against the New England Patriots? And I understand they won, and in the NFL, it's very hard to win games, so you're never going to take them for granted. But at the same time, guys, did anyone see Josh Allen's stat line in that game against the New England Patriots? 61% completion percentage, 154 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 65 quarterback rating. And keep in mind, this is following his game against the New York Jets, where the Buffalo Bills, as an offense, couldn't put the ball in the end zone at all. Also, when you look at it, let's keep in mind this. The Buffalo Bills and their defense is not good at all. I understand they shut down the Patriots for the most part, but I don't know about you guys. When Cam Newton was driving the New England Patriots down the field, I expected them to win that game, and unfortunately, he coughed the ball up. The Buffalo Bills are fraud. I don't trust their quarterback. Don't trust their defense. I do believe right now, even given Tua and him not playing great in week 1, it's only his first career start. I can't trust Buffalo to win anything right now. They are a fraud football team. And takeaway number 10, as special as Justin Herbert is, Anthony Lynn needs to be fired after this season. He can't come back, or else the Chargers are never going to win anything. Because as impressive as Justin Herbert is, they're the same old Chargers. They're the AFC's version of the Atlanta Falcons. No matter what their lead is, they always find a way to blow it. They've already blown multiple 16-point leads this season. And by multiple, I'll be a little more specific with you guys. The Chargers, the last 6 times they've had a lead above 16 points, they've lost all 6 games. Do you know how crazy that stat is? Now, luckily, if you're a Chargers fan, I do think the future is bright with Justin Herbert, and if I'm the Chargers, I'm really making it a priority to keep Shane Steichen, my offensive coordinator this year, but at the same time move on from Anthony Lynn, because I don't think he's a very good football coach. One thing about the Broncos real quick, I think this was the most important win of the Vic Fangio era. There were people, cough, cough myself, that were saying in the first half that Drew Lock just may not be the answer for this Denver Bronco team. And the fact that he led that comeback, I don't care that they were playing the Chargers. The Broncos very quietly are now, I don't want to say they're in the playoff race, but they're sitting at 3-4. And they're in a better position than many other teams, including the Chargers, who they just beat. And both of these teams were 2-4 in this game. You remember the game really came down to that one play on the 1-yard line, and Drew Lock hit KJ Hamler, the rookie from Penn State, to get the win. They're now 3-4. And when you look at the Broncos, like, if they could somehow, some way go into Atlanta and get the win on Sunday, you guys know I picked the Broncos to finish as a wild card team before the season started. Now, a big reason of that was because of Courtland Sutton and Von Miller, and it's unfortunate that both of those guys are hurt right now, but a core of Drew Lock, and I don't even want to say starting with the core of Drew Lock, but John Elway did a really nice job putting Drew Lock in a position to succeed with Gordon, Lindsey, Judy, Hamler. Tim Patrick's a good player. I like this tight end Noah Fant, and I trust Denver's defense, and Mile High is always a tough place to play. Keep your eye out on Denver. I don't think they're done yet if they get competent quarterback play.